who is the program, finance and program coordinator for Women Association for Victims Empowerment with. Next, on my right, is the Honorable Chairperson, Your Worship Principal Magistrate, Mohammed Krubali, who is also doubling as Chairperson of the Gambia Federation of the Disabled, and at the same time, the Chairperson of the National With me here, I am, by the way, your transmitter or your conveyor to what is going to happen within the Federation and its affiliated OPDs as Acting Executive Director, Seni Kamara. I also want to acknowledge the presence of the main decision-making body of the Gambia Federation of the Disabled, the group of honorables, executive board members of GFD. I also want to observe the presence of heads of organizations of persons with disabilities here present. We call them OPDs. Of the Secretariat of the Gambia Federation of the Disabled. In the same vein, want to acknowledge the presence of the staff of WAVE, or the Secretariat of WAVE, and of course, another important organ, and that's the press, both electronic and print media here present. I acknowledge your participation to this 2 days gathering, and it's my pleasure to welcome you all. Well said and done. I would want to reiterate the importance of these 2 days convergence. That is the subject matter to be deliberated on, which is a concern and an interest to persons with disabilities, especially the decision-making bodies of the organizations of persons with disabilities, and specifically to the decision makers of GFD, and that's the board. One of its agenda to discuss is the recommendations of the TRRC that sat some time ago and produced something to government, and government also in response produced something. Those somethings will be highlighted by the Honorable Marian Sise. The second aspect of it is our own bill, our own act. That is the Persons with Disabilities Act 2021, which is our Bible to stand by, because we will be an agent of change for the realization of that act in the Gambia. We will be the watchdogs as the rule is, or as the expectations that we are the rights holders to see the implementation of this important document called the Act, which is a domesticated instrument in line with the ratified Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. And that will be presented by no other person than the right, I will call it referent, Principal Magistrate Mohammed Krubali. It is not by coincidence. It is a design agenda for him, because he is the subject matter underlining the dots, the commas, and the full stops, the capital letters, you name it. So we will hear from him. And you can see, although the agenda is not much illustrated or distributed, but you can see it overhead with the projector. So without much ado, I am expecting that we would want to listen keenly and take stock of what is going to be deliberated, so that we know where we are and we will be better informed of what is happening and what needs to be done to see whether it actually responded or addressing our plight as persons with disabilities in the Gambia. So without much ado, I want to sincerely and honorably invite Miriam Cisse to give the substance of the workshop in her introductory remarks. Thank you.
Thank you, Seni. Thank you so much for that elaboration of why we've all been gathered here today to be able to go through the next couple of days in terms of the capacity building for organizations of persons with disability. So this activity is actually funded by OACHR, Office of Human Rights Commission for Office of the High Commission for Human Rights, and United Nations Development Program through funding from Peacekeeping. And this is in collaboration with the Gambia Federation for Disabled to be able to build the capacity of OPDs in terms of the TRRC recommendations, what are the gaps, so for them to be able to become active agents of this change, and for them to be also be able to participate with everybody in the public. They have to understand what the TRRC is, what are the recommendations, how can they play a part in all of these recommendations, how can they be involved in all of these post-TRRC issues, to be able to foster the never again as a collective action for the country. So this workshop is going to go through different series of training focused on Transitional Justice, the Disability Act, what are the gaps, what are the challenges, what are the opportunities, and how are we going to work together collaboratively to be able to enhance that agenda. So in the next couple of days, we'll be having a series of different discussions, and we'll also be having a panel discussion with the Ministry of Justice, NCCE, UNDP, to have a panel discussion also talking about all of these reforms, because it's a it's a very, very important discussion. So, and I hope that we all have our expectations coming here, and I hope by the end of this 2 days workshop, we'll be able to fulfill this expectation by going to understand and to help you understand how you'll be able to participate, and also come up with concrete and actionable strategies for us to be able to advance the agenda. With that being said, thank you so much, Seni, and I'll allow magistrates Kubali to actually elaborate in terms of the Disability Act and why it actually came in place in the first place. Thank you.
Next one.
Thank you very much, Miriam. Miriam has said, even though we know the subject matter, but she has given sequences of what is expected to be delivered during these 2 days. Thank you very much for that brief explanation. And I hope we are taking stock. We are taking stock right from the high table as we delve into the calendar or agenda events that we have to cover. The drawing board is closer, and we are seeing the light prints. So what we need to do is to comprehend and see how we translate them. In that regard, may I have the singular honor, privilege to welcome the Honorable Magistrate as chairman of the 2 organs of persons with disabilities to give his opening remarks. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, the Acting Executive Director of Gambia Federation of the Disabled, Mr. Seni Kamara. I recognize the presence of the board of Gambia Federation of the Disabled. I also recognize the presence of the Executive Director, recognizing the presence of the representatives of Women Association of Victim Empowerment, recognizing the presence of GFD Secretariat, and recognizing the presence of media. Good morning to you all and welcome to this 2 days convergence on deliberation on the post recommendations of TRRC or TRRC post recommendations, as well as Persons with Disabilities Act that is regarded as the disability law. This 2 days convergence is indeed in line with one of the preambles of the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, which states, I quote, integrating persons with disabilities in all walks of life is indeed a relevant strategy for sustainable development, which means that for a state or authority to realize and achieve Sustainable Development Goals Agenda of 2030 must ensure the inclusion and participation and even consideration of persons with disabilities in every sector. And by extension, again, it is in line with Section 4 of Persons with Disabilities Act 2021 and Article 3 of the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, one of which is full and effective participation and inclusion of persons with disabilities in society. This is why I inter alia reference that the convergence is indeed in tandem with these two principles in the two different national and international legislations. It has been realized that Gambia Federation of the Disabled, being the umbrella body representing the voice, the needs, the fundamental rights and inherent dignity of persons with disabilities, of course, by design has affiliated organizations of persons with disabilities, which are 19 duly and legally registered with the Federation in different categories, i.e. visual impairment, hard of hearing, albinism, physically challenged, mental impairment, etc. The list is not exhaustive. It is in consequence of the foregoing that Gambia Federation of the Disabled collaborates with Women Association of Victim Empowerment, again, which is in line with one of our objectives, that is to partner and network with those that really support shared goal of GFD, that is Gambia Federation of the Disabled. By virtue of this, even though we have our 19 organizations of persons with disabilities affiliated to GFD, really have capacity gaps which needs to be strengthened and which needs to be built. Because an individual or organization without capacity is actually those that is likely to crumble and will not make progress in its desire. So this is why, having realized that our organizations of persons with disabilities have capacity gaps which need to be built and fixed, we deem it necessary, since we are advocating for our inclusion in every sector, also to build the capacities of our organizations of persons with disabilities more on the post-TRRC recommendations, because we don't expect to be limited in a very narrow scope. But since we are also victims of such, it is important to build our capacities on the post-TRRC recommendations that have been reflected or captured in government's white paper that has been issued in 2022. So quite apart from that, our own disability law is here. Mr. Kamara Inter earlier told you that this disability law, which is Persons with Disabilities Act, should be our Bible. So therefore, it is expected to be known, to be mastered, and to be used in our advocacy strives to inform individuals and stakeholders of our fundamental rights that are indeed enshrined in this Persons with Disabilities Act 2021. Therefore, we expect everyone representing your own OPD to listen very keenly, pay attention, contribute, ask questions on any subject matter or topic that is not clear, so that you will also be able to give back to your members across your OPDs, and so that you will also be able to advocate for respect for these rights to any individual or authority. So I enjoin all of you to do so. And I don't intend to bother you to speak much, but then I hereby exercise my discretion to welcome you all once again. And of course, I hereby declare these 2 days programs open. I thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. Even though he is to dilate on the salient issues of the Act, but he has gone through the opening to give a gist and underlying points of the Act. And I know by those words and the cautioning of what is expected from you participants, it will be a lively, interactive, and very successful deliberation that we are expecting. And it is no mistake that yes, we have come up with this subject matter of this 2 days workshop to really hit the nail as it is enshrined in the Constitution of the Republic of the Gambia 1997, and of course the TRRC's recommendations, and of course the People with Disabilities Act, and more so overcrowding it from the CRPD. So we are in line, and we really want to see that the journey goes without any hesitation or hitches, because the driving force are the ones who matter, and therefore they will play justice to its implementation so that we'll see a positive impact of what it is intended. Thank you very much, Your Worship. I think we have almost come to the end of the high table exercise, and now I would urge or expect that we go straight into the substance, because time is against us and today is Friday. We will want to see how far and how much we can cover the agenda for today. So without much ado, I would want to thank the high table and request that we disperse from the high table so that we take the bull by the horn. Thank you very much. A round of applause, please. Otherwise, I will start fighting one by one. And by the time I finish the group, I will already be dead. So,
will you give us space?
Thank you. Okay. Can we go right into the projection?
Sure.
And invite Miriam Sise, the Finance and Programs Coordinator of Women's Association for Victims Empowerment.
I think I should come before Marianne. I should come before Marianne. Okay, let me check the agenda. Maju be fine.
Okay. Huh? Okay, point of correction. Sorry. I said Miriam first before. Yeah, but now we will drive the canoe home and bring the act first.
Absolutely.
Yeah? Charity begins at home.
Yes.
Yeah?
Absolutely.
It is for us, by us,
And nothing without us.
and nothing without us. Thank you. Boss Vice, I like that word. Thank you. So, without much ado, I have the singular honor to allow or give the floor to Your Worship, Honorable Chair, to lead us into the, how do you call it, butchering of the PWD's Act, even though we know something, but we really need to have it as our Bible, as we said. So thank you very much. Mr. Chair, the floor is yours. Totally yours.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much
for giving me the opportunity to really present or deliberate on the overview of Persons with Disabilities Act 2021, as well as it is also going to be very interactive, so to speak, with certain points wherein we will be able to discuss further with opportunities and challenges for its implementation. But before I begin, I want you to understand one thing. That is, as I have said, this is our show, exclusively our show, the show of persons with disabilities and the show of organizations of persons with disabilities. We expect that every OPD is represented by either a chair and or his or her representative. So therefore your attention is keenly needed, because you know I am somebody who sometimes will point at somebody or at someone by asking you a question, and I'm going to do that because this is very, very, very interactive. All right? So, overview of Persons with Disabilities Act 2021. One, it is very important. Let me first put it to you that I am not projecting, I don't project. One, it is about what we call vision-centered approach and non-vision-centered approach. Vision-centered approach always have the tendency that in order for you to perform effectively and efficiently, you must have the eyesight. You must see everything to allow you to perform. This is the concept of vision-centered approach. That is one of the school of thoughts. But non-vision-centered approach is saying, no, you don't have to use your vision to do everything successfully. Even without your vision, the fact that your mind is functioning well, you don't really need your vision to see. But your mind that is in good order will dictate you, or will allow you to perform effectively and efficiently like anyone who has the vision to see. Do you see these two schools of thoughts?
Yeah.
So it means even if you don't have vision, once your mind is intact, I am not projecting anyway. Now we go to the overview of Persons with Disabilities Act 2021. How did our own disability law, which is Persons with Disabilities Act 2021, came into being or into force? First, you will agree with me that it has been realized that persons with disabilities are discriminated against, are not treated equally on equal basis with others.
Observation, please. Sorry to interject. I have there is somebody from KKM who. No, somebody came, not Jimmy's, because they said Jimmy's was here last week, so he cannot come again. Just look at the nonsense. So the other thing is you are given 1 hour, 45 minutes presentation and 15 minutes question.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, so I don't know how you will address this one. Thank you.
I am just duly informed that there is one person within us who doesn't understand English. And the communication that was inter alia sent is to ensure that anyone who is coming to represent your OPD should be able to speak and understand English. I don't know, and I'm not sure, so maybe later I need to have a tete-a-tete with that guy, at least to brief him or her, I'm not sure who he or she is, so that he or she is at par with us. Thank you for that observation, Acting ED. So, It has also been realized that persons with disabilities are subjected to prejudice or stereotype, and we are not actually treated equally on equal basis with others. In consequence of the foregoing, the Gambia, having ratified the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities in 2015 in July. Yes, it has been regarded as an international instrument. Remember, CRPD is a very important document. But the Gambia, being a dual state, does not apply an international instrument or international law directly into the Gambia. But being a dual state, if the country ratified any international instrument or international law, must domesticate that international instrument or law into its local legislation in order to give full effect to that international instrument. This is how or why we have our own domesticated legislation or our own local law for persons with disabilities. It is as opposed to the other countries. If your country is a muni-state, meaning it adopts only one system, once you ratify an international law or instrument, so you can directly apply it in your country. So this is why countries that are muni-state, once they ratify an international instrument, it is directly applicable. You don't need a domesticated or local legislation. But for the Gambia, it is not a muni-state, it is a dual state. Meaning, even if you ratify or sign an international instrument, you need your own local law to domesticate it, to give full effect to that international instrument and to your local law. This is why we have Persons with Disabilities Act 2021 that has been enacted by the National Assembly and the President in July 2021. And it is called Persons with Disabilities Act 2021. And this Persons with Disabilities Act 2021, being the disability law, is the strongest guaranteed law for persons with disabilities, apart from the Constitution, that persons with disabilities can rely upon in the event of any infringement or violation of our fundamental rights. When our rights or our right is violated or are violated by any individual or authority, this Persons with Disabilities Act 2021, which is our disability law, is going to be our beacon of hope to address, infringe our fundamental rights and freedom, apart from the Constitution of the Gambia. Now, if you look at the purpose of this Persons with Disabilities Act 2021, or to simply put, the disability law, it actually provides for social support. It provides or makes provision for communication, education and vocational training, accessibility, education, employment, rehabilitation, etc. The list is not exhaustive. But just to give you an introduction of what our own disability law provides, these are, among other things, that it makes provision for. But we will be able to look at not all, but many of these fundamental rights of persons with disabilities and see how they can be addressed, and also see the challenges that we may likely have in terms of its implementation. But I have given you a synopsis of some of those rights, like social support, education and vocational training, accessibility, communication, employment, transportation, services, etc. This is why I will challenge all of you to start reading this disability law, to give you knowledge of what your own law talks about, respect, protection, or promotion of your rights. But if you don't know your specific rights that are being enshrined in these Persons with Disabilities Act, that is your own law, how will you be able to advocate? You cannot advocate for your rights, isn't it? How will you be able to influence somebody who violated your rights, calling him or her to order to respect your right? You cannot. How will you go to the radio station? How will you go to the television stations to convince the government or to convince the authority? Because definitely whatever you are advocating for must be predicated, must be hinged on a particular provision of law. So that that individual, if you want to tell him or her that the law prohibits you from discriminating me or from treating me very bad, you must be able to give law to that particular authority or to the government or to the individual. So it is very important, since we are all educated, to start reading our own disability law that guarantees us. But if you don't know your own law, my friend, it is going to be very pitiful. So you must know your laws. Know your rights that are enshrined in Persons with Disabilities Act 2021. Some people will still say disability bill. Please, it is not a bill. It is no longer a bill. It is now a law. When it was drafted and placed before the National Assembly, it was considered a bill because the enact it or did not pass it into law. So it was a bill. But once the National Assembly has unanimously enacted it into law, it is called an act. What is an act? An act is a law, or it is a legislation. Okay? I hope this is clear. Don't say disability bill. It's Persons with Disabilities Act. All right? So quite apart from that, I want us to look at our own principles. Remember, every human being should have principle or principles that will govern your way of life, that will govern your movement, that will govern your direction, that will govern your advocacy, that will govern your well-being, that will govern your coexistence, that will govern your everything. And these are the principles that are expected by everybody. But we say, as persons with disabilities, we have principles. And can you imagine? These principles are even by extension enshrined in our own law, which is Persons with Disabilities Act. In fact, I can tell you, as a magistrate or as a lawyer, I have never come across any law that really mentioned the principles of a particular group or sector. I've not seen it. But it is unique that persons with disabilities, with our principles, are even recognized and enshrined in our own disability law. And they are enshrined in the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. So this is telling us that as persons with disabilities, then our principles are stronger than other principles. It is telling us that then our principles must be upheld, must be respected, must be promoted, and must be protected by everybody. And it is important for us to know these principles that govern us, that guide us, and I always call these principles as uncompromising principles. I remember Kwame Nkrumah of blessed memory in Ghana said, I quote, "If you compromise with your principles, then abandon them. If you compromise with your principles, then abandon them, because they're useless. You don't expect to have principles, and you don't give regard to your principles. You don't respect your principles. Your principles that you have and that you share with people must begin from you yourself to respect these principles. If you respect your principles, then of course others will respect your principles. And I would want us to look at these principles, and I want us to know and memorize these principles. They should really be in our hearts, so that if we are advocating in the future, you will be able to tell any individual or authority that these are my principles as a person with disability. These are our principles as persons with disabilities. And please, to give you reference, the principles of persons with disabilities is contained in Section 4 of Persons with Disabilities Act 2021. Although my task is not to make a comparison between Persons with Disabilities Act as a domesticated legislation and the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, but where necessary, that one is actually subject to the exercise of my discretion if time permits. If I may compare, I will compare, but it is not a sacrosanct principle for me to do so. Now, the principles of persons with disabilities as contained or referenced in Section 4 of Persons with Disabilities Act 2021 are 7. Although one of the principles is being omitted, to be in tandem or in pari material with CRPD. The first principle is what? Respect for inherent dignity, individual freedom, including respecting the rights of persons with disabilities and independence of persons with disabilities. That is the first principle. There must be respect to our inherent dignity. There must be respect to diversity. There must be respect to individual freedom as persons with disabilities. We must have our freedom, and our freedom must be respected and upheld. Is that not so? Yes. As persons with disabilities, we must be independent, and our independence must be respected and upheld. This is our own principle. That's principle 1. I told you respect for inherent dignity, individual freedom, including diversity or independence of persons with disabilities. That's principle 1. Principle 2, I may not be able to tell you chronologically, but I'll tell you all the 7 principles. The second principle, as in Section 4 of Persons with Disabilities Act 2021, is what? Non-discrimination. Non-discrimination. So our principle, second principle, is saying that nobody should discriminate against us as persons with disabilities. So instead, the interpretation of non-discrimination is to the effect that we are supposed to be treated equally on equal basis with others. Nobody is better than us, and perhaps we are not also better than, or we may even be better, since we are the ones that are being discriminated against, since we are the ones that are being subjected to stereotypes and prejudices. since we are the one that are subjects of charities, since we are the one that are subject of what we call harmful practices, since we are the ones that are subject of skepticism, so then we will say, come on, then we are even better. We should treat or consider ourselves as better, come on. But we need not be discriminated against. And to support this non-discrimination in Persons with Disabilities Act 2021, it has what we call a constitutional recognition or a constitutional force. That is in Section 33 of the 1997 Constitution of the Republic of the Gambia. And I know you will all agree with me that the Constitution is the supreme law, meaning it is the Alpha and Omega, the father and the mother of all laws. So now if our own national supreme constitution in Section 33 is prohibiting discrimination against Gambian citizens, which include persons with disabilities, supporting our own principle, should there be any law that should tend to discriminate persons with disabilities? I ask you a question. Should there be any law or existing law that should discriminate against persons with disabilities? No. Why? Because discrimination itself is sanctioned by the Constitution, which is the supreme law, and by extension, our own Persons with Disabilities Act 2021 and our own principles. Don't discriminate against me. I will not allow you to discriminate against me in any way. If you want to discriminate against me, I am going to file a legal suit against you to stop discriminating against me. Period. Is that clear? Yeah. The third principle is what we call accessibility. Accessibility. I'm coming. I told I'm not giving you in chronological order, but I will tell you all the principles. Accessibility. Accessibility here means everybody or every person with disability or all the persons with disabilities must access the physical environment, must access information, communication and technology, must access. You see, the baby is agreeing with me. She's also making her voice heard, giving that effect to what I am. Must access services, must access social amenities, etc. Okay? For instance, in Mercy Hotel here, we all know, yes, kind of, the building here may be accessible to a very, very, very maybe smaller degree. But now, how about if you want to go upstairs? There is a limitation, there is a barrier placed onto the environment. It will not allow us, or maybe some of us, especially the wheelchair users, or some of the crutch users, to actually access upstairs. And we have the right to access upstairs. But because it does not make provision for other alternative forms of accommodation or accessibility feature, like an elevator or escalator, some of them that should have an audio or braille prompt, is limiting our access to upstairs. So then meaning, not the entire building of Mercy that is accessible to persons with disabilities. It makes discrimination against some categories of persons with disabilities. Access to the road network is all part of it. We are all Gambian citizens, we are all taxpayers. So then we are all expected to have access to both private and public buildings. Accessing services, service providers must also make sure that their services are accessible to persons with disabilities. There are prerequisites that have been developed by the advocates or by the experts in terms of accessibility of services. They say it must be affordable, accessible, acceptable, available, and must be of quality. There must be services must be available, affordable, accessible, acceptable, and quality. So sometimes some services may be available but not affordable. They may be available but not accessible. They may not be of quality, isn't it? So these are some of the prerequisites or conditions that have been laid down for services, at least to meet, to be accommodative to persons with disabilities. But remember, I should have told you this earlier, disability itself, when you have it, that's what actually limits or restricts you. This is why, if you look at the definition of disability in both Persons with Disabilities Act 2021 and the UN Convention, there is a disparity. There is a distinction, a very fundamental distinction. But then, it is also to us. The convention makes emphasis on the definition of disability as long-term physical, mental, intellectual, or sensory impairments, which with interaction with various barriers may hinder their full and effective participation on an equal basis with others. The key word there that is being mentioned by the UNCRPD is the long-term, but our own Persons with Disabilities Act omits long. Disability is, defined as physical, mental, intellectual, or sensory impairments which with interaction with various barriers may hinder their full and effective participation on an equal basis with others. You understand? But then, as I say, as long as your disability, either in long term or short term, restricts you, limits you from accessing or achieving something, then definitely it is a disability that really inhibits you from accessing it, isn't it? So if you have a condition, either visual or physical or mental or sensory impairment that really limits you or that places a barrier between you and that of, on equal basis with others, then you know that you have a disability. All right? So we go to the fourth principle, full and effective participation and inclusion of persons with disabilities on an equal basis with others. I repeat, full and effective participation and inclusion of persons with disabilities in all sectors. Again, this is us as persons with disabilities who really keep advocating for our rights to be included in the community, to participate in decision-making processes, in programming, in planning, in policy making, etc. This is the clarion call made by persons with disabilities that we should participate, that we should be included in all sectors or in all walks of life. We are not expected to be excluded or to be ignored or to be isolated. This is not a call for isolationism, no. It is a call for inclusion. It is a call for participation. When there are planning exercises to take place, persons with disabilities are expected to be consulted, to be included in the planning process, to participate and contribute in the planning process, so that at the end of the day, when the final planning designs are out and published for use by everybody, it will not tend to discriminate persons with disabilities. When decisions are going to be made for the good of the public, for the good of the society, persons with disabilities should be consulted, included, to participate and to contribute to bring out very good decisions that will not tend to discriminate us in any way. When policies are to be made, or when laws are to be made, the same thing. We are a very important being in the society, and we have the right to coexist, and we have the right to be included. We have the right to participate. We have the right to contribute, and we have the right to make sure that we take any affirmative action against any of these that really tend to discriminate us. But we must participate and we must be included. Okay? We go to the fifth principle, which is equality of opportunities. Again, here, everyone should have a fair and equal share of the cake, the national cake. The cake belongs to everybody to have a bite at. Yes. For instance, in development processes, we say it is not only meant for the so-called able. Persons with disabilities are taxpayers. We are citizens of the country. And we are expected to actually be given that equal treatment in terms of opportunities. To development processes like employment, like other benefits or services by the government or by any authority, we have the right. Okay? When scholarships are advertised for everybody to benefit, don't introduce or bring in stringent rules or regulations to give effect or opportunity in terms of scholarship to persons with disabilities. Because definitely, if you really put in place stringent rules and regulations, they will tend to discriminate persons with disabilities in terms of equality of opportunity. So we say, give us the opportunity. Give us the benefit of the doubt. Give us that consideration on the basis of our disabilities. But if you come up with stringent rules and regulations, that will amount to denial of those opportunities by persons with disabilities. So there must be equality of opportunities. Principle 6. Equality between men and women. You see, as persons with disabilities, our principles are not biased, to the effect that we who are really preaching and advocating or speaking about equality, we say men and women, should be equal. Don't look at the women and treat them as underdogs, as rank and files. No, we say women and men, there should be that equality of arms at least, to give them that feeling of coexistence, to give them that feeling of equality. Okay? Because if you look at, in fact, by extension, Section 28 of the 1997 Constitution, it also cautioned that women should be treated equally with men, and they should be empowered, and their rights should actually be advanced. This is the national constitution of the Gambia, speaking as a supreme law, cautioning the government, the authorities, and the individuals to actually respect the rights of women and treat women with dignity. Again, I will quote the late president of Guinea-Conakry, Sékou Touré of blessed memory. He said, and I quote, "No nation is free if women are not free." Guinea-Conakry of blessed memory. And again, by extension, if you look at Article 6 of the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, it's also cautioned that the rights of women be respected and women to be treated with dignity, like others, and they should not be subjected to any harmful practices. For instance, again, that has another force of Section 67 of Persons with Disabilities Act 2021 that really inhibits women with disabilities to be subjected to harmful practices. So what is really harmful practices anyway, are known to us, but the women with disabilities should not be subjected to harmful practices. Section 67 of Persons with Disabilities Act 2021 prohibits or forbids or inhibits anybody to treat women with disabilities or to subject them to harmful practices. So, if you look at the convention, that has stated up to about 8 principles. Okay? Like for instance, the 8 principles in the convention says respect for the including the rights of children with disabilities in order to preserve their identity. So that is being omitted by Persons with Disabilities Act 2021, which last provision or which last principle, if I remember, is talking of the basic standard of living. So you can see a discrepancy. Thank you. The last principle of Persons with Disabilities Act 2021 talks about the basic persons with disabilities to enjoy the basic standard of living. Although, if you are to give an effective interpretation, it's general, it's all inclusive. But then in specific terms, it omits respecting the evolving capacities of children, including the rights of children with disabilities in order to preserve their identity. So that's what the convention brought about. And again, most importantly,
social protection as well. It's also a convention to that principle.
Where do you find that?
The last one, where it's a provision of basic standard of living and social protection.
Yes, and social protection. Yeah, that is the last principle.
Yes.
In the PAA.
Exactly.
So, if you look at social protection, for example, it is already indicated, in the convention. But as I say, I'm not about to bring all those comparisons or whatsoever. But then I just want to give you, let's say, the discrepancies, some of the discrepancies where necessary. So if you also look at, for instance, respect for difference, respect for acceptance and difference, of persons with disabilities, as part of humanity and human diversity, is part of the principles of CRPD. But again, that one is being omitted by Persons with Disabilities Act. Okay? I just want us to know these two, but our purpose here is the act. Okay? So now, that one is done. These are the principles. I hope when I ask you to tell me our principles as persons with disabilities, as OPD chairs, or as OPD advocates, I hope you'll be able to tell me. I'm talking to my fellow persons with disabilities. Can I start asking questions? If you will be able to tell me, then can I start asking a question? Can I do that? Do you have confidence? Huh? Do we have confidence that I ask questions for persons with disabilities to tell me, representing your OPDs as per at least what your principles are? Because this is one of the reasons why you are here, in order to build your capacities on this. Can I point fingers?
Yeah.
Are you sure? Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Who are you?
I'm Lamin.
Lamin?
Judge.
Representing?
Bio.
Salifu Bayo.
Salifu Bayo.
Can you tell me one principle of persons with disabilities? Quick.
Well, I cannot explain right now. Maybe later.
Why? Huh?
I'm listening right now. Maybe later I'll explain.
Mr. Jaju.
Yeah.
From
Nyomi.
from NBA, Salifu Bayo. Come on. Huh? You should be able to tell me. Mr. Kanyi.
Yes.
Mr. Kanyi.
Yes.
Will you be able to tell me one of the principles?
Yes.
Yes?
Full participation of people with disability.
Full and effective participation included. Yes, clap for him. Yes, and who is this one?
That's Dudu.
Dudu. Can you tell me one principle of persons with disabilities? Principles.
Principles.
People with disabilities whose rights are being suppressed. They don't have access to opportunities.
Yeah, but how would you couch that? How would you frame that? At least to be closer in the principles. Dudu, hurry up, interpreter, hurry up. I have about 2 or 3 more to ask. The stelo?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Dudu, can I take the mic? Oh? Yeah. All right. Yes. Who is this one?
I am Bojang.
Bojang, yes.
Bojang, yes.
Board member, give me one principle.
Yeah, one of the principles is equal opportunities.
Equality of opportunities.
Equality of opportunities.
Good. And this one is? Sirif Kinder, give me one principle.
People are free to make their own choice.
Yeah, but how would you bring that one closer? How would the board member? Sirif, come on. Yes? Oh, Sirif, I'll give you 0. Yes, Mr. Gay.
Thank you. One of the principles I remember is the provision of basic standard of living and social protection.
Okay, basic standard of living, that's the last principle. And here? Huh? Mr. Mane, yes. Yes. Mr. Mane, give me one principle.
Fundamental right of persons to have access to education.
Principles?
Right to access, right to education.
No, principles? Principles. I've given you 7 principles, sir. The principles.
Social facilities and protection. Persons with disability.
Hey, Mr. Mane?
Something comes before that.
No.
Social protection goes with basic standard of living.
Yes. So I will ask 2 more. And who is here?
This one is from Wave.
Oh, you are from Wave. Adam, I will skip you, yes. Yankuba, yes, of OSDV. Yes, give me one.
Do we have independent?
Well, don't ask us. We are asking you to tell us now.
Independent, accessibility, discrimination.
Discrimination?
Yes.
Discrimination?
Yes.
We should be discriminated against?
No, you said no. I'm saying the principles.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Yes.
I think discrimination, like you said.
No discrimination, meaning we should be discriminated against.
No.
Tell me.
I am saying here we shouldn't be discriminated.
Non-discrimination.
Non-discrimination,
yes. Where are the women? Huh? Yeah?
Equality between men and women.
Good. It's okay now. Where are the women? I'm coming. Huh?
Our is there.
Our? Where's our? No, wait. Yes. Let me start with Ndey. Where's Ndey? Yes. Tell her to give you. No. Don't reject it.
Yeah, give me the mic. She said give me the mic. Okay.
Oh, is it lip reading?
Non-discrimination.
No, you people. It's not your turn now.
Respect for diversity, independence, and freedom of persons with disabilities.
Of course. I hope that's what she say, huh?
Yeah, that's what she said.
Where's our? Our, give me one. No, they've said that. Give me another one. Yes? Quick.
Respect and acceptance of persons with disability.
Huh?
Respect and accept persons with disability.
No, CRPD in the PWDA.
In the?
PWDA in persons with disabilities.
You mean in the person?
Yes. Hurry up, our. No.
I have it.
Our, come on. No, I want to say that one is its own section. No?
There's a disagreement here. This month, raise your what?
No, you are the one report.
Don't worry, don't quarrel. Anyway, I am impressed and not impressed. I am impressed and non-impressed. Yeah, do you know why? Please remember, we are all representing OPDs. And at the end of the day, we are all expected to go back to our OPDs and inform them or educate them or tell them of what we have been taught or what we have learned. Remember, these are not the words of Magistrate Krubali, but these are the words extracted from our own disability law. Our law that guarantees us. Our laws that we can rely upon. Our laws that shall actually fight for us. So everybody should know our rights or our principles in these laws. Please. These are not my words, but these are the words that are extracted from our own disability laws. Okay? So please, let's try to know them so that we can become good advocates, so that we can become influential advocates, so that we can convince others. But then, if we cannot, it may really pose challenges and difficulties, isn't it? Please, persons with disabilities. All right, so we are going to retire from that of the principles of persons with disabilities. That is enshrined in Section 4 of Persons with Disabilities Act 2021. So now, again, we are going to tell ourselves what we call... Yes?
Sorry, which one is the seventh one?
Basic standard of living and social protection. That one also, I will come and tell you, basic standard of living and social protection, that has the force of what we call yes, basic standard of living and social protection. But now I am coming to tell you a very, very, very important thing, which is again the heart of Persons with Disabilities Act 2021, which is obligation and realization of the rights of persons with disabilities. The obligation and realization of the fundamental rights of persons with disabilities. This is reference to Section 5 of Persons with Disabilities Act 2021. And in the CRPD, it is referenced in Article 4. Please remember, in the CRPD, we are talking about articles. But in our own Persons with Disabilities, we are talking about sections. Article in the CRPD, section in the Persons with Disabilities Act. But the purpose and intention are the same. Okay? So Section 5 of Persons with Disabilities Act 2021 talks about the obligation and realization of Persons with Disabilities Act. Obligations and realization. Remember here, it is the government that really has an absolute obligation for the realization of our fundamental rights. The of the Fundamental Rights of Persons with Disabilities Act. Why is it an obligation? Because the Gambia government is the duty bearer. And persons with disabilities, we are the right holders. So since we are holding our rights, or we hold these fundamental rights, then the government, that is a duty bearer, should ensure that all the fundamental rights and freedoms and dignities of persons with disabilities that is enshrined or encapsulated in our laws are being implemented and realized or fulfilled both to the letter and spirit. No excuse. Our rights. I am going to ask you this question. How many provisions or sections that are talking of our rights are mentioned in Persons with Disabilities Act 2021? Who can tell me? Yes? No, I said how many sections? How many provisions? Yes. How many sections? 71. It has 71 sections. How about CRPD? 50. Good. CRPD, which the Gambia ratified, and from which, of course, our Persons with Disability Act got its blessings from, has 50 articles. But Persons with Disabilities Act has 71 sections. You're right. Okay? So now, as I say, the first obligation by the Gambia government should ensure that all the fundamental rights and freedoms of persons with disabilities are being implemented or are being realized or are being fulfilled. Now I'm coming to ask you one by one. Who can tell me? Let's deal with about 10 rights or 15 rights at least. Let me try to crack your brains. Okay. So ask questions. Yes. This one is? Huh? Usainu, can you give me one right of persons with disabilities? Quick.
Right to education.
Right to education. That is section 33. Yankuba, yes? Talk. Don't sound exclamatory. Tell me.
No, that's the one. Anyway, right to health. Right
to health. Yes, that is section 20. Yes, advocates, tell me.
Yeah, accessibility and information.
Hey, give me one right. Who's the Jimmy's?
No, it's Karamo.
Karamo, give me one.
Okay, we must be respectful.
Hey, give me one right.
One right should be accessibility.
Accessibility, yes. Yeah. Yes? Ibrahim Cham, yes, Cham, tell me, you should also know, even though you are an interpreter.
Right to access to justice.
Okay.
Access to justice, yes. Tell them, yes?
Right to life.
Right to life, yes.
Access to social protection.
Access to social protection, okay. Basic standard of living, yes.
Right to employment.
Right to employment, yes.
Right to information.
Right to
Information.
accessibility. All right, yes? To speak louder? Yes?
I don't know.
What's your name? Munas. From which OPD? Huh?
Yeah.
From which OPD you say yeah? Munas, where are you coming from?
Here.
Where? Welengara. Which OPD?
DAA.
Oh my God. Sirif, you need to educate your people. She says she does not know. Nobody. Come on. Yes?
Right to reasonable accommodation.
Give me one right.
I said reasonable
It's not correct.
Accessibility then.
They say that.
Right to justice. That also has been said.
Yes, access to justice. It's said, yes.
Right to life.
It's said. Bindu, I'll come back to you later.
Right to employment.
Right to employment is been said.
No, that one has been said.
It's been said, yes. Somebody said right to employment. Yes.
Okay.
But the right 71, up to 71.
Right to marry.
Right to marry. Okay, anyway. Huh?
Access to public information.
Public information is said.
Right to marry.
Right to marry, yeah, it's correct, of course. And found a family.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. Although it's been so interactive, I am informed that I have limited time. So I'm going to round up very, very, very quickly in 3 minutes so we can spend the rest of the 7 minutes to ask questions and to contribute. I have 10 minutes to go, but I will use 3 minutes to summarize and the 7 minutes to ask questions, for you people to ask questions if you have any. So now, remember we told you that we have 71 sections of provisions, but we have looked at the most important ones that affect us. We have the right to education, section 33 of Persons with Disabilities Act 2021. Although Article 24 of CRPD will tell you of the right to inclusive education. But now here, if persons with disabilities are to actually attain or realize the rights to education, we must make sure that school environments become accessible. The toilets, the classrooms, etc., itinerant teaching must be provided for the special needs children or for special needs, persons with special needs. Okay? We should also be able to make sure that all the equipment or facilities or resources are provided for persons with disabilities in order to attain quality, affordable education, inclusive education. Okay? So now, let me also jump very quickly. Let's look at section 36 of Persons with Disabilities Act 2021 that concerns the rights of persons with disabilities to employment. CRPD in Article 27 is concerning our rights to employment. But the most important thing here is, if you look at section 36, subsection 3 of Persons with Disabilities Act 2021, it vests a responsibility onto the Minister for Gender to work with Minister for Labor for quota system. Please, this is important. For quota system for persons with disabilities that they must regulate, that is the Minister for Gender, Children and Social Welfare, as well as the Minister for Labor, should work on quota system with the employers for persons with disabilities. So now, if any employer does not provide that quota system, for instance, for employment for persons with disabilities, then you violate section 36, subsection 3 of our own law. What is the effect of that? If you violate, that one must be read together with section 70 of Persons with Disabilities Act 2021, that if anybody or any authority or institution denies persons with disabilities his or right to employment, denies persons with disabilities an admission to school or institution, denies persons with disabilities to be registered in the registry of persons with disabilities, denies persons with disabilities access or objects to any obstruction of the rights of persons with disabilities, then that individual is liable to pay a fine of $50,000. That's what the law says, not me. But in the case, that is in the case of a natural person. But in the case of a body corporate or companies or institutions, I am liable to pay $100,000. Come on, our own disability law in section 70 has made provision for offenses against our rights. If any individual denies us with all this, you are liable to pay a fine of $50,000 or to 6 months in prison, or both. You pay $50,000 or you go to jail for 6 months, or you pay the $50,000 and go to jail for 6 months. But if it is a body corporate or companies or institutions, should pay $100,000. 1 minute more for wrapping up with this. But how about, what are the opportunities or challenges? The opportunity is, one, as affiliated organizations of persons with disabilities, with Gambia Federation of the Disabled and National Disability Advisory Council, we should work together to advocate strongly, to engage the government, institutions, authorities, or individuals onto what we call constructive dialogue. Not to be confrontational, but constructive dialogue. Because if we are confrontational, you may be denied of your fundamental right, or your time may be wasted. But constructive dialogue and a very, 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 very strong advocacy, you understand, is the answer to our solution. Okay? So the challenges are some that we know that funding issues become problem. We don't also have knowledge on the disability law. We have limitations or restrictions. Those are some of our challenges that we have. You understand? So we should be able to make sure that we abreast ourselves with the existing disability laws to find, relevant facts, to back our points or decisions. These are very important. These are the challenges and opportunities. So persons with disabilities, apart from this, as I say, because of time and others need to come and present, but this is what I have for you. So in the next 7 minutes, if you have any question that doubts you, please welcome to ask me question. I'll be able to answer to the best of my ability. I thank you very much. Now,
I have a question.
okay. You tell us your name and who you are. Yes.
President of GFD.
Yeah.
You spoke of denial of access to employment by, let's say, government entities or other practitioners. Talking of denial, I don't know how does it go? How does the denial? How can you qualify the denial in this case?
Okay, very quickly, a denial to persons with disabilities is qualified. One, when one is excluded or restricted or is ignored or is isolated of his or her right to enjoy a fundamental right. For instance, you have the right to education, you are denied admission. You have the right to employment, you are being denied because of the basis of your disability. You have the access to go to a particular place, you are denied on the basis of your disability. So obviously that is discrimination, and if anybody does that as an individual, is liable to pay a fine of $50,000 or to go to jail for 6 months or both. I hope that answers your question.
Then, okay,
I hope that answers your question. Thank you. Yankuba, yes?
Yes. Thank you very much.
That's the mic.
Huh? Okay.
That's the mic.
Okay, the question that I want to ask was about the policies and the rights that we are trying to assuage our people. The bill is already into, how do you say, it's been approved now. It is into, I don't know if that's.
We have a law now. We have a disability law.
It's a law, but is it in full function or like if one person with disabilities right is violated, can you take that person to court or not yet?
Okay, I can help you very quickly.
Yes.
You see, I want us to understand one thing. Please, let's listen to this. If you look at Section 5 of Persons with Disabilities Act 2021, I told you it talks about obligation and realizations of the rights of persons with disabilities. Meaning the government has an obligation to ensure the realization or the implementation of our rights. So to me, there are even certain perspectives where implementation of our rights is really happening, but not 100% as we want to see it. For example, I will tell you, mainstream schools that really do all their best to accept persons with disabilities, to acquire education, is part of the implementation. Because the act itself is saying that the schools should really enroll or admit persons with disabilities in mainstream schools. So some schools that really strive at least to admit you is part of the implementation. But the implementation is kind of short of in some schools because of access to physical environment, classroom, toilets, itinerant teaching, facilities and equipment. But implementation in certain aspects are actually happening slowly. But remember, it's about progressive realization and immediate realization. Although the Minister for Gender is giving a lot of responsibilities to make sure that she comes up with regulations, so the minister also should actually be choked. We should really go to and say, come on, you have a lot of responsibilities in the act. You have to act and make sure that these things really come into effect. And we need to come up with what we call the implementation mechanism. Just like the national strategic, the national policy and strategic plan for persons with disabilities. But if you look at Section 69 of Persons with Disabilities Act 2021, it also gives the minister power to delegate some of her functions to other ministries. That is, in the event the minister is busy or is unavailable or does not even know, then she can definitely invoke other ministries with responsibilities in terms of delegation of her powers. Okay?
So it means the act is in full force now? Huh?
The act is in place.
Huh?
The act is in place.
Oh.
Okay?
Yeah.
Of course, in certain perspective. In fact, let me tell you this. If you look at the constitutional provision, for example, in Section 71 itself, you understand what I mean? Yeah. So the right to constitutional, your rights to constitutional rights, for instance, like if some of your fundamental rights have been violated, especially in tandem with the Constitution, like Chapter 4, from Sections 18 to 33, you can even go to high. Of course, such as your right to education, that the Constitution has actually provided for. Like if you look at Section 31, subsections 1, 2, and 3, persons with disabilities' right to employment, health, and education. These are matters of constitutionalities. If they are being infringed, even though persons with disabilities are provides it, but the fact that the Constitution mentions it, if they are being breached, you can go to the High Court for enforcement of your fundamental constitutional rights. Any more?
Yeah.
Who?
Yes, I have a question on the same employment.
The same employment. Okay, let's see whether there will be a difference.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, my question is sometimes when you apply for vacancy and they make a civilized way of discriminating you, not by showing you or telling you, but it is like they when you are lucky, you call for the interview, and after interview, that is end of everything. So at this point, how do you know that you are discriminated?
Sometimes there is no hard and fast rule, but I think sometimes it's difficult. Sometimes employers will say, because remember, when a vacancy is out, although persons with disabilities should be encouraged to apply, but then when you apply with others, sometimes they say only those that are qualified, shortlisted will be called. You understand? Mr. Moderator, give me 2 minutes or 3.
I just wanted to help him just a little bit. Like here, discrimination and denial are two different things.
Yes.
What are the difference?
This discrimination could be done in your eyes. In your eyes, in your presence. You can be discriminated. Like you apply and you call for an interview, and during the process of the interview, the words or statement used against you might be in a form of discriminating you. You understand? But that is different from when you are interviewed already and asked to come or being informed later or called, and later on you did not hear from them. That is a total denial.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
And this happened to all those. This happened to all. To my own, that's to my own understanding.
Okay, that's fine. You know, yeah, it could be. I am not sure, but it could be. He's saying that words that are being expressed against you in a negative light, you know, actually amounts to discrimination. So it's different from when you are invited, you appear, but you are not just given the position, you know, then that's denial. So I think that's something I've also learned. Yeah. Moderator, 1 minute more. Who?
What I wanted to say was...
Okay.
Hello. What I wanted to say, sometimes it may be denial, but sometimes it may be after the interview, the job is one person, and they are selecting 20 people applying. Yeah. So therefore, it may not be because of your disability. It might be at different administrative areas. That does happen. Because many people apply and few are selected, or one.
Many are called and few are chosen.
Many are called, few are chosen. It could be that effect. I know myself, I was a victim of one of it, but that one was categorically clear. I can remember that.
Okay.
Then I could not ride a motorbike, which is very, very eminent. I have to accept.
Positive discrimination.
Yeah, that one was a positive discrimination.
Yeah.
I applied and I was endorsed until the last thing they know that I can't ride a motorbike. Then I had to quit the job.
Thank you. That's an example. Yes, Bintu. Final one. That's the final one.
Okay, so
time.
So my question is, I have a little bit of.
Then I think I still need to talk to the timekeeper to give us 2 minutes more. Yes, yes.
Okay. So the clarification here is when you talk about the act itself, and I spoke about the right to reasonable accommodation, and you said it's not a right. So I want.
Yeah, it's not mentioned in the rights.
It's not mentioned.
It is
so
just
I wanted to
person.
understand. Is it because we know it's in the CRPD?
Even in the act.
In the act is also mentioned.
Yes.
But it's not a right.
Yeah, it's not mentioned as a specific right or a bullet.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.